All right, guys. Hi, this is Sandy from the Giff Group. So today we have our buyers informational little live session going on here. Today's discussion is going to be about 9 buyers trap that can cost you thousands of dollars when you're buying a home if you're not doing the right thing. Okay, so again, my name is Sandy Sills. I am with the Gift Group. I am a licensed realtor here in the Central Florida area. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we do these little discussions where I'll come on and I'll share with you different things that you could do if you're buying or selling a home. If you're watching me through Facebook Live, we're going to invite you to go ahead and share this information if you know of anyone that it would interest. And also, you could click on notifications so you'll always be notified when we're live. If you're watching on YouTube, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. And again, if what we're saying makes sense to you, you could go ahead and invite your friends to join us on these get-togethers, okay? But if you have any topic that you'd like us to discuss, or if you're in a real estate transaction, or if you're doing anything real estate related, and you have any questions you'd like to ask us, feel free to give us a call, 407-791-4713, or leave your comment in YouTube or on Facebook, and we will surely get back to you. So let's get into it today. It's 9 buyer traps and how to avoid them. Okay, so what are some of the first things that we should do? Let's first do our buyer profile system. So the first thing you want to do is to make sure that the agent you're working with is aware of what your own buying needs are, what's important to you. Maybe a master bedroom on the ground level is important to you. Maybe a certain school district is important to you. Maybe easy access to a particular highway is important to you. So there are some things that's going to be high priority, and there's some things that are going to be just nice. If I could have it, that would be great type of situation. And to give you a good example, it would be like you want to be near a certain highway because you want to get to work at a certain time. So that's really, really important to you. That's something you're not willing to compromise on, as opposed to maybe if you had a 4 bedroom, it would be great, but you really want 3 bedrooms. Or if the house had a pool, it would be great, but you really don't need a pool, right? So it's very important that the agent offer a buyer profile system or a house hunting service, which takes the guesswork out of finding just the right home that matches your needs. This type of program will cross-match your criteria with all available homes on the market and supply you with printed information or emails on an ongoing basis. A program like this can help you to affordably move into the home of your dream. Okay, so we're going to think about that for a minute. Okay, now we know that buying a home is the biggest asset you could ever have. And as we discussed on a few other calls, we don't only rely on the homes on the market to show our buyers. We have what is called a Dream Home Finder program. And in our Dream Home Finder program, you tell us what you're looking for in the neighborhood you're looking for or the subdivision you're looking for. And we're going to go out there and we're going to find the home for you. Now, how do we do this? We do this because we know there are many, many sellers all the time that are looking to sell, but they don't necessarily want to put their house on the market. They may not want to go through the hassle of staging the home and all the other great stuff. They may not want a lot of people going through their homes. And so they would say, if you find me a buyer, I would sell, but I really don't want my house on the market, right? So those sellers we're aware of, and once we have a buyer, we will go out and contact those sellers and let them know, hey, we have a potential buyer for your home. We will have you, the buyer, go and take a look at the home. And if it's a perfect match, then we work out the details from there, right? So that's our Dream Home Finder program, which is a great program if you're being very specific in where you want to live, the neighborhood, the school district, the subdivision, and that kind of thing, right? No matter which way you look at it, buying a home is a major investment. But for many home buyers, it can be it can be an even more expensive process than it needs to be because many fall prey of at least few of the many common and costly mistakes which trap them into either paying too much for the home they want or losing their dream home to another buyer, or worse, buying the wrong home for their needs. A systemized approach to the home buying process can help you steer clear of these common traps, allowing you not only to cut costs and also secure the home that's best for you. This important report discusses the 9 most common and costly of these home buyer traps, how to identify them, and what you can do to avoid them. So we're going to go through that. The first one is bidding blind. What does that mean, right? Bidding blind. What price should you offer when you bid on a home, right? Is the seller's asking price too high, or does it represent a great deal? If you fail to research the market in order to understand what comparable homes are selling for, making your offer would be like bidding blind. Without this knowledge of market value, you could easily bid too much or fail to make a competitive offer at all on an excellent value. Now let's stick with number one for a second, bidding blind. So if you're working with an agent, the agent is supposed to and should, a very good agent will do this, give you the comparables in the neighborhood. Now let me just say this real quickly. A lot of people go to Zillow and they are basing everything on Zillow, and don't rely 100% on Zillow, guys, because Zillow is not always accurate. Zillow doesn't have the most up-to-date information, and Zillow doesn't take market conditions into consideration. Also, Zillow doesn't take the condition of the property into consideration. So when you're doing a market comparable, if you truly want to know what homes in a neighborhood is selling for, you're going to need the assistance of a real estate agent. Why? Because a real estate agent knows the local market better than anybody else. Because a real estate agent is going to be going through a lot more homes than Zillow, the computer, ever will. Because even if your neighbor lives in the community, or a friend lives in the community, or even your family member lives in the community, they do not have the knowledge that a local real estate agent is going to have. A local real estate agent is going to know uh, what home sold, what it sold for, what's in it, what kind of upgrades they did, all these great stuff that you're not going to have knowledge of. Okay, so that's going to be kind of important. And don't rely on just a computer for that. You need a human being with local knowledge of the area you're looking to buy in. That's for sure. All right, let's move on to buying the wrong home. Ooh, that's a scary one. Who wants to live in the wrong home that they don't like? Ugh. What are you looking for in a home is a big question. A simple enough question, but the answer can be quite complex. More than one buyer has been swept up in the emotion and excitement of the buying process, only to find themselves the owner of a home that is either too big or too small. Maybe they're stuck with a longer than desired continue to work, or a dozen more fix up than they really want to deal with. Now that the excitement has died down, right? So what that is saying is you might take on too much, right? The home might look nice, and you're like, okay, I just need to do a few extra repairs. But sometimes when you start one repair, you sometimes you don't realize how much of a repair the home needs until you start repairing, and then it becomes a nightmare, right? Take the time up front to clearly define your wants and your needs. That's very important. Put it in writing and then use it as a yardstick with which to measure every home you look at. And I gotta say, I've been doing this since 2001. That's a lot of years. And I think in all my years of doing real estate, I probably only met 2 or 3 buyers that literally had a list with them and they were checking stuff off, and it was the wives. And I thought, wow, they're very thorough. And then I begin to realize it's because they don't want to forget. Because sometimes you have certain things that you're like, okay, I need XYZ. But then you get caught up in the moment. You get caught up, you go in the home and you get caught up maybe with the beautiful gourmet kitchen, or maybe with the beautiful stone floors, or beautiful pool outside, or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you're so caught up with that you forget the other little needs that you might want, right? Like maybe the distance between your kid's bedroom and your bedroom, right? So these are something that you have to really take into consideration. You could put it on your phone, you could write it down, you could just make a mental note. Maybe it's best to write it down actually, so you'll know for sure exactly what your must-have are. Like, you have to have a must-have list, right? And no matter what the home looks like, you have to keep on your must-have list, because as I said, we all get caught up. Buying a home is a very emotional thing, and we all get caught up with that. We all do. We get caught up with certain features of the home, and we forget the other stuff that we should be looking for, right? So that's very important. All right, so number 3 is unclear title. Make sure very early on in the negotiation that you will own your new home free and clear by having a title search completed. Well, we do have title companies that do these kind of things for us, so that's not really a main thing. But however, if you're in the middle of buying a home and something comes up on the title, you will have the right to back out of that deal, right? Because a part of the contingency on buying the home is you must get clear title. That's in our contracts. So if the owner can convey clear title to you, then that's a problem. This becomes a different situation though if you're going to auction. right? If you're buying a house at an auction, or if you're buying a foreclosure property, a lot of times foreclosure homes do not have clear titles, and sometimes they have titles that are improvised, right? And so you have to figure out, well, how do you check the title? So if you go in a situation where you're buying a bank-owned property, you know, off of the real estate platform, you're going to an auction, you're buying a home directly from a seller, then you definitely want to make sure your title is clear. The last thing you want to discover when you're in the back stretch of a transaction is that there are encumbrances on the property, such as tax liens, undisclosed owners, easements, leases, or all kind of craziness. All kind of craziness, right? So for bank-owned properties, you want to make sure the title is clear. If you're going to an auction, it's even more important because at an auction, they sell as is and there's no recourse. Once you bid on the property and you win the bid, you have to close. Otherwise, you're going to lose your down payment. And a lot of these auctions take the down payment before the auction gets started. They take one deposit. And once you win the bid, you got to give the other deposit. Then you have 30 to 45 days to complete the transaction. If within that 30 to 45 days, that's when you decide to get a title company to do the title search and there's any issues, you're going to lose that deposit. And based upon the auction, it may not be a big deposit. Some auctioneers take a small deposit, but for the most part, for buying a home, they're normally going to take at least $5,000 to $10,000 up front. So if that's the case, that's a lot of money to lose because you didn't do your homework prior. So I always advise my investors, if you're going to go to an auction, take down all the addresses and go do a title check on them before you start bidding. Make sure when you're bidding on the auction, you know that that title is free and clear. You don't want to find out that it's not free and clear after the fact, right? How about an inaccurate survey? As part of your offer to purchase, make sure you request an updated property survey which clearly marks your boundary, right? So you want to ask the seller, do you have a survey that we could look at? Now, on a regular real estate platform, if you're going to a real estate agent and you're doing a traditional contract, it's going to give you out if there's an issue with the survey. The seller is going to have to correct it before you purchase. But again, if you're buying directly from the seller or in an auction or any other, you know, on traditional sale, let's put it that way. Let's say when you're buying from a real estate agent, it's a traditional sale, and when you are buying off of that platform, it's non-traditional. So if it's a non-traditional sale, you definitely want to make sure that the survey is intact for sure. All right. Number 5 is like a big deal, right? The undisclosed fix-ups. So undisclosed fix-up where you don't know the thing needs a fix-up until you're actually in the property, which is not a good thing to do, right? Don't expect every seller to own up to every physical detail that would need to be attended to. Both you and the seller are out to maximize your investment. You're out to get the best price for your money. The seller wants to get the most money for their home, right? So everybody want to maximize their investment on either side. And try to conduct a thorough inspection of the home early in the process. So typically on the traditional sale, you'll have 10 to 15 days to do a home inspection. And when you do your home inspection, make sure you have an inspector that's very thorough. And most inspectors are, right? Most inspectors are going to be very thorough. And they're going to tell you all the stuff that they're finding. But do remember that the inspectors cannot see what's behind the wall. So if there's something like mold behind the wall, the inspector is not going to be able to see that. Some inspector usually is called a mold detector, and they will run it against the areas of the kitchen or the bathroom, any wall that is prone to moisture, to see if there's anything like that going on. But some things just cannot be seen with the naked eyes, right? Or behind the wall, I should say. If something is blocking, they can't see what's under the floors, right? So these are some of the things you got to keep in mind while the inspector is doing that report. If you're buying at an auction, make sure you do your preliminary inspection before you get to the auction. And if you are buying from a seller, be sure the seller give you time to conduct your inspection. That's going to be very, very important. Really, 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 really important there. All right. Not getting mortgage or pre-approval, right? Not getting mortgage pre-approval. Pre-approval these days is very fast, easy, very quick. When you have a pre-approval mortgage, you can shop for your home with a great sense of freedom and security, knowing that the money will be there when you find the home of your dreams. So here is the problem and why we're saying that. If you start looking, a lot of people start looking for homes without being pre-approved, and they get very offended and upset when they come across an agent that asks them, are you pre-approved for a mortgage? And they get very offended and they figure that we're trying to insult them. And of course, if I wasn't able to buy a home, would I be looking? And all these different things are thrown at us. But guess what? If you don't go out and get a pre-approval done first, you could be very disappointed. Why do I say that? You might say, okay, I have a credit score of X and I make Y, so I should be able to qualify for this amount of money. Without going to speak to a mortgage broker or a lender and having them tell you what you can truly afford, it's a misfire in the dark. So let's say you went out there and you find this beautiful home and it's priced at 350 and it has everything you possibly could want in a home. And you decide to put an offer, but the seller will not allow you to put an offer without giving them a pre-approval letter. So now you decide to go to the lender and the mortgage bank to get your pre-approval letter, only to find out that you can only afford $300,000, not 350, right? That's going to be something very disappointing. You're going to be upset with the lender. You're going to be upset with everybody, even though it's your own fault because you should have done that prior. It's a very upsetting situation. And the problem with that is when you're approved for 300 as opposed to 350, you're not going to be attracted to the homes at 300,000 because you're already selling home with the one for 350. And it's going to be a very uphill battle, very hard uphill battle to settle for almost 300,000 when you had your mind set on one for 350. So trying to shop for a home without being pre-approved first is like putting the cart before the horse, as they would say. I'm from Jamaica, so I come up with all these crazy things. But you definitely want to be pre-approved. It's just like you would not go grocery shopping without money, right? If you walk into Walmart or into Publix to shop, you already know you have your wallet or your purse. And if you're walking through Walmart or Publix and you decide, oh my gosh, or you realize, oh my gosh, I don't have my pocketbook, I don't have my purse, you're going to leave everything there and you're going to go get your pocketbook or your purse and then you're going to come back to purchase, right? There's no way you're going to go up to the cash register with all these groceries knowing full well you don't have your purse with you. That's kind of what happened when you shop and you don't have a pre-approval letter. You could guesstimate and you could go online and you could do all the great stuff you want to do, but until you speak to a lender or a mortgage broker or a mortgage banker and they tell you this is the amount of money you can afford, you really don't know. And typically, uh, when you shop for a mortgage, you're able to speak to at least 3 lenders in a 30-day span because a lot of people are very, very scared of you're running my credit, you're running my credit. You don't want everybody to run your credit, and you want to do your research on a mortgage banker before you start having people run your credit and getting you pre-approved. So once you do your research and you kind of figure out what mortgage banker you want to use, you want to probably get 3 choices within that 30-day time frame. So I always say get 2 and then save 1. Why do I say that? Because if you get 2 and you save 1 and you decide to buy new construction and the builder is going to want you to use their preferred lender, especially if they're going to be helping you with your closing costs, or if they have any kind of incentives that they're offering, they'll only give you those incentives if you're using their lender. So obviously, you want to save one of those pre-approval just in case you got to get pre-approved again with your lender. No lender is going to take what you already have. For instance, you can't go to a lender and say, I was already pre-approved with lender X and here's a copy of my credit report. Can you approve me? Everybody's going to want to do their own credit run. Everybody's going to want to do their own due diligence. So you always want to save one of the 3 in the 30-day period, just in case you find a builder or something might happen to the one you decide those 2 and you want to try a third person, right? So don't do all 3 at the same time. All right. So let's move on to number 7, contract misses. If a seller fails to comply with the letter of the contract by neglecting to attend to some repair issues or changing the spirit of the agreement in some way, this could delay the final closing and settlement. Agree ahead of time on a dollar amount for an escrow fund to cover items that the seller fails to follow through on. Prepare a list of agreed issues, walk through them, and check them off one by one. What does that mean? It means that if you're buying a home and there's repairs to be done, and the seller agreed to do some of the repairs, you want to make sure that those repairs are done before you close. If the repairs are not done before you close, then the seller needs to put something in escrow that is going to cover those issues. And that is something that has to be agreed upon right after the inspection. So right after the inspection, based upon what issues come up, you're going to say, okay, this is the issues that come up and we would like for you to fix whatever it is. If the seller agrees to fix whatever it is, then you want to make sure that that's done before you close. A seller is not going to go back and do any kind of fixes if you close on the property and the repairs aren't done. So to save on time, what you can agree to do is to tell the seller, listen, seller, you were supposed to replace that water tank and you didn't replace it. As far as I know, it's like $1,000 to replace the hot water tank. So we're gonna need to put $1,000 in escrow so that after the closing, you could either go fix it or I'll use this money and fix it myself. right? That's going to be very important. What's number 8? Hidden costs. That's a big one. Nobody wants to have no hidden cost situation going on with them, right? Make sure you identify and uncover all costs, large and small, far enough ahead of time. When a transaction closes, you will sometimes find fees for this or that sneak in through after the subtotal fees, such as a loan disbursement charges, underwriting fees, and all these great stuff. Now, in today's market, they have what is called a disclosed loan disclosure. It's called a loan disclosure, and all the costs has to be disclosed to you before you apply for your mortgage, and also 3 days before you close. Your lender has to give you all the disclosures, right? All the fees, everything. Nothing should be hidden. So you should have a very clear idea of what is happening going into the loan, and also a very clear idea 3 days before you close. Now, if they make any change, let's say it's 3 days before you close and something was wrong and they had to make a change on the closing disclosure, then they have to correct it and send it back to you and give you 3 more days again to review, right? So every time there's a correction on the closing disclosures, the lender has to give you 3 more days to disclose. And listen, don't make the fact that you have to move from somewhere at a certain time cause you to sign something you don't want to sign. Because remember, you're committed to this loan for 30 years. And even though most people sell after 5 to 7 years, still you want to make sure you know what you're getting into. So if your closing is going to be delayed by 3 additional days, it's better for you to put your stuff in storage and get on a hotel or stay with a relative or a friend to make sure you have those 3 days, so you are able to see exactly what's going on. So if they correct it and they need 3 additional days to give you to review, make sure you're taking those 3 days and not saying, no, I have to close, because they have to do it. The minute you bring up a dispute or a problem or something that's not clear and there's a change that needs to be made, they have to give you 3 additional days. They have to make the change and then give you 72 more hours before you close, and it does not include the weekends. Okay? Just remember, keep that in mind. Oh, wow, I just covered that. Rushing the closing. Don't rush the closing. I just said that. Take your time during this critical part of the process and insist on seeing all paperwork. This says the day before you sign, but it's going to be 72 days before you sign. This is a new rule that came into effect, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago, and you have to see the paperwork 3 days before you sign. Make sure this documentation perfectly reflects your understanding of the transaction and that nothing has been added or subtracted. Is the interest rate the correct interest rate? Is everything covered that you think should be covered? If you rush this process on the day of closing, you may run into a last-minute snag that you can't fix without compromising the terms of the deal, the financing, or even the sale itself. So that's the reason why I know they're given 3 days disclosure. So if you're doing a mortgage, and as you come to the closing, if you're supposed to close on the 15th, you're going to get this information on the 12th. You have 3 days to review it. If something comes up within those 3 days, you call the lender, let them know, lender review it. If there's a loan change, they have to go change it. And then once it's changed and the paperwork is corrected, they have to give you another 3 days to review it again to make sure everything is all on the up and up. That's going to be very important. Interest rates are important, your loan payments. If in the beginning of the loan, they told you your loan payment was supposed to be $1,500 per month, and when you get the loan disclosure papers, it has $1,600 or $1,500 or $1,700 a month, you need to find out what happened. Why did it go up? What is the story, right? Any kind of change must be disclosed, and the lender has to disclose that to you. All right. If you have any questions about anything that we've just discussed, feel free to send us an email or make a comment or a private message, and we will definitely take care of that for you. We hope you find the information helpful that we're sharing with you, and also feel free to send us over any information that you think you could benefit from covering. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.